Have you ever wondered, does the very first thought I have when I wake up affect the rest of my day? It might sound small, almost trivial, but the truth is, the first thing you say to yourself each morning quietly shapes how you live, how you feel, and how you respond to everything that unfolds in the next 16 hours. So, what if I told you that just a few sentences you whisper to yourself in the morning could actually change the course of your life? Not through magic, but through training your own mind. You can keep starting your day in a rush, caught up in stress, phone notifications, and endless news updates. Or you can start like someone who's in charge, with presence, with intention, and with a few powerful words. And this might surprise you. The mind doesn't care what's real or imagined. It simply listens to what you repeat and it believes it. If you keep telling yourself, "I'm not good enough," your mind will go looking for proof that it's true. But if you begin the day with, "I am whole, I am ready, I create my experience," then you're resetting the foundation of your entire mindset. So, what would happen if every morning you gave just a few minutes to planting the right seeds in your consciousness? In the next section, I'll be sharing 13 powerful reminders, simple but deeply meaningful phrases. If you practice them each morning, they could become the sharp sword that protects your heart amid life's chaos and slowly build a steadier, more peaceful inner world. 1. The mind doesn't resist repetition, it obeys it. There's something quiet but incredibly powerful happening inside us every single day. Most people don't notice it. It's this: whatever we repeat in our mind becomes truth to us. The mind doesn't judge what's true or false, helpful or harmful. It just records what's planted, often like soil that never refuses a seed. The Buddha once said, "Mind precedes all things. Mind is their master. Mind is their maker." It's a phrase many of us have heard before. But how many truly grasp its depth, especially in the ordinary moments of life, where thoughts, self-talk, and unconscious habits silently shape a person's destiny? Picture this. Each morning, before your eyes fully open, a thought crosses your mind. "Here we go again, so tired." It's subtle, fleeting, but it shows up every day. And without realizing it, your mind starts believing life is exhausting, not because it actually is, but because the repetition made it feel real. On the other hand, someone else might quietly say to themselves, "I'm still here. I still have a chance to do something kind today." That sentence won't fix every problem, but it plants a different direction in the heart, one that's more awake, more generous, more grounded. And if each day is watered with a thought like that, the heart begins to shift. Like a tree that grows strong from slow, steady watering, it never dries up. The mind doesn't argue with repetition. It doesn't debate you. It follows. So if you say over and over, "I'm not enough," your mind will eventually give you a version of yourself that believes it. But if you choose to say, "I'm still learning, I deserve another chance," your mind will give you a foundation to walk with trust instead of fear. There's an old story in the Dhammapada. A young man once asked the Buddha, "Master, how can I find inner peace?" The Buddha didn't answer right away. Instead, he drew a simple circle on the ground and said, "Walk one full circle around this every day. Don't miss a single step." The young man did as told. 1 week, 1 month, half a year. Then one day, he returned and knelt before the Buddha. "Master," he said, "I don't know why, but something inside feels different. Lighter. I'm less anxious. Things don't shake me the way they used to." The Buddha smiled gently. Just by walking that one circle each day, your mind learned direction. Imagine what happens when you teach your mind, every morning, how to speak to itself. The mind doesn't learn through logic. It learns through emotionally charged repetition. This is why our self-talk, those quiet thoughts we think no one hears, have the power to build or destroy our entire emotional world. Even one sentence like, "I'm worthless," repeated daily, can become your truth if left unchecked. Self-talk is never harmless. It's the seed we drop into the field of the mind. And if we keep planting negativity, one day we'll look around and find our life overrun by weeds, without realizing we planted them ourselves. You don't have to say anything grand or dramatic. Just stop feeding poison to your mind every day. Instead of saying, "I'm scared," try saying, "I'm learning how to face this fear." Instead of, "I can't," say, "I can't yet, but I'm willing to try again." The mind will listen, and the beautiful thing is, it will start to believe this new path. No one transforms overnight, but gentle repetition done mindfully, with clear intention, can do what logic never will. It changes the roots inside. Every word you say to yourself is a drop of water, and in time, even water wears away stone. Self-talk, too, can soften hard corners inside. It can reopen the closed-off parts of us, those places wounded by old pain. That's why positive words are not cheesy. They are meditation in the form of language. They're quiet healing if you stay with them long enough. 2. If you don't speak up first, your inner negativity will. There's something very quiet, but just as dangerous. It's your own silence right before the day begins. A lot of people wake up without saying anything to themselves, but their minds have already started talking. And sadly, what usually speaks first isn't compassion. It's not wisdom. It's doubt. It's fear. It's that little voice, sharp like a knife, whispering, "You're not going to make it through today." And from that moment on, the rest of the day becomes about defense. Not showing up for life, but hiding, protecting, pulling away. Most people think negativity comes from bad things that happen during the day. But truth is, in many cases, it starts before you've even brushed your teeth. The Buddha once said, "The mind is the forerunner of all things. The mind is the master. The mind creates." Just one thought in the morning, just a speck of dust, can shape how you feel, how you act, how you respond all day long. It's like opening the door of your house first thing in the morning. If you let in the wrong guest, they'll stay the whole day. And they might bring their friends, too. So if you don't speak up first, the negative voice will. There's a beautiful image in Buddhism, the gatekeeper of the mind. Your mind is like a big, sacred gate. Behind it lives your awareness, your emotions, your wisdom. And every day, all kinds of guests show up. Thoughts, memories, old feelings, other people's opinions from 10 years ago. If you don't have a gatekeeper, anyone can walk in. That gatekeeper is your first voice in the morning. If that voice says, "I choose peace today," or even, "No matter what happens, I will stay grounded," then anxiety, anger, comparison, they'll hesitate. They won't rush in so fast. But if no one speaks, if you leave the gate wide open without mindfulness, then soon your inner world becomes cluttered. And the one who has to live there is you. And you won't even have space to breathe. There's an old Zen story about a young student who meditated with his teacher every morning. But every time he sat down, his mind would flood with thoughts. What do I need to do today? Am I good enough? Do people think badly of me? After a few days, he got discouraged. The master smiled gently and said, "When your mind is a wild horse, hold the reins before it runs." In other words, speak first. Before your mind drags you somewhere you don't want to go. This practice isn't complicated. You don't need to memorize scriptures or have a perfectly quiet environment. All you need is to not let your silence get hijacked. Speak not to be louder than the world, but to take charge of that very first moment. Say something simple like, "Today, I will live with purpose. I'm not perfect, but I'm learning. I have the power to choose how I respond." Don't wait for the negative voice to rise and then scramble to fix it. Don't let your mind swim upstream in a river of self-doubt when you could have redirected the current from the very beginning. Just one sentence spoken with full presence can calm a storm before it even starts. And if you do that every day, soon the storm won't even show up anymore. Because now, your mind knows there's someone in charge. There's a mindful gatekeeper here, and it's not so easy to sneak in anymore. A mind guided by the right voice becomes your ally. But a mind left alone can turn against you, dragging you back into old habits, old fears, and wounds that were never healed. That's why a mindful person doesn't stay silent in the morning. They don't shout, but they speak clearly. And they speak early before the mind gets pulled back into the past. 3. Your first words each morning are the sword you carry into battle. There's a powerful image in ancient Buddhist texts. The image of a mindful warrior. Not a warrior with blades and fists, but a warrior of the heart. Someone who doesn't fight the world, but stands face to face with the battles inside. Laziness, doubt, anger, frustration, insecurity. And the weapon of that warrior? It's not loud. It's not heavy. It's simply the first words spoken at dawn. Why morning? Because it's the most sacred moment of the day. That quiet space between sleep and wakefulness, between what was and what will be. The mind is still soft then, like a blade not yet sharpened, like a blank page waiting for its first sentence. A Zen teacher once said, "Each morning is an invisible battlefield." If you step out of bed without mindfulness, it's like walking into war with empty hands. Now, that battlefield might look ordinary: a breakfast, a meeting, traffic, a phone call. But inside, a much deeper fight is already happening. One voice is trying to pull you back into fear, old patterns, exhaustion. The other is calling you to grow, to be braver than yesterday, to show up with your heart open, even if it's been bruised. So the question is, what will you carry into that inner battlefield? The answer is, your first sentence of the day, not the one you say out loud, but the quiet one inside your heart. If that sentence is, "Ugh, not this again," then your sword is dull. But if it's, "I still have today, I still have a chance," then your blade is sharp and your spirit is steady. These days, people wake up to alarms, grab their phones, scroll through news, check emails. The mind doesn't even get a chance to breathe. It's already pulled into other people's noise. Before setting your own direction, you're already reacting to the world's chaos. That's like stepping into war without armor, and then wondering why small things hurt so much. An unanswered message, a grumpy stranger, a missed deadline. It's because you weren't anchored. But then there are those who do something different. They don't need big words or fancy affirmations. Just one quiet sentence repeated each morning. Something like, "I am not my circumstances. I choose how I respond." That sentence is like sharpening the mind's blade. Over time, it trains the heart to stay calm. It builds resilience. That's why when criticism comes, they don't collapse. When plans change, they don't fall apart. They've already chosen their response before the world had a chance to shake them. There's an old Buddhist story about a young warrior who came to see the Buddha. He said, "I've trained my whole life to fight, but is there a strength that doesn't require violence?" The Buddha looked at him and replied, "True strength is mastering your mind before facing the world. A mind left wild is more dangerous than any sword, but a mind that's trained brings peace without needing to fight." That teaching still holds true, because someone who hasn't sharpened their sword in the morning can be wounded by the smallest insult. A single rude word can ruin their entire week. But someone who has already set their intention, who's already spoken a mindful truth, they walk through storms with a calm center. And the best part is, you don't need hours. Just 3 mindful minutes. One sincere, heartfelt sentence, spoken before the noise rushes in. Something like, "I will enter today with gratitude. I don't need to control everything just myself. I'm not perfect, but I'm enough to begin again." These aren't just positive quotes. They are tools. Training for the heart and the quiet sword of the mindful warrior. 4. Each morning is sacred space. Before the world gets loud, you have a quiet window, a sacred pause, a chance to choose. Will I react or respond? Will I lead with fear or with wisdom? There's something so beautiful, yet sadly forgotten by many of us. It's this. Every morning, before anything happens, you are standing inside a sacred landscape. You don't need temple bells, no incense, no flowers or candlelight. Just being fully present in that moment is enough to create a holy ground inside your own heart. Before the phone rings, before the news floods in, before yesterday's worries come knocking, the morning offers you a clean, untouched space, a blank canvas to return to yourself. And the question becomes, what will you paint on that canvas today? The Buddha once said, "When the mind is not yet disturbed by external things, that's the best time to train it." And morning is that time, a silent field where you get to choose. React or take initiative, fear or insight. Picture it like this. Each morning, as you open your eyes, you're standing at a fork in the road. One path is old and familiar, where you fall into reaction mode, irritated about yesterday, anxious about today, worried about what hasn't even arrived. But the other path, it's fresh, it's new, where you pause, take a deep breath, and quietly say to yourself, "Today, I will walk mindfully." Most people don't realize you only get that moment once a day, because within minutes, the mind starts racing. Notifications, to-do lists, unfinished conversations, leftover emotions from yesterday. The door to stillness slowly closes, and if you don't step through it in time, you get swept into the current of life. A Zen master once taught his students, each morning before you eat, before you speak, sit quietly and ask your heart 3 things. Will I react or will I choose? Will I hold anger or seek understanding? Will I live as a victim or as the master of my day? These may sound simple, but they awaken the light inside before the shadows of habit take over. Someone once said, "How you start your day is how you face your life." It might sound dramatic, but it's deeply true, because each morning is a miniature life. You're handed a body that's just awakened, like being reborn. You're given a clean stretch of time, like receiving sacred hours. And you're allowed to choose, like an artist facing an untouched canvas. But if you don't recognize the sacredness of that time, you'll rush through it like just another routine. And that rushing sets the tone for everything else. If your morning starts with tension, your whole day may lean that way. If it starts with peace, you've already built a place within yourself to return to when challenges come. That's why you don't need to change your whole life. Just pause each morning, even for 2 or 3 minutes, to come home to yourself. We can't always control what happens in a day, but we can choose how we begin it. Try starting one morning without your phone, without checking messages. Just sit by the window, feel your breath, and ask gently, what energy will I carry into this day? Don't underestimate the power of that moment, because right there, between stillness and awareness, you may hear the truest voice inside you, not the voice of fear, not the voice chasing achievement, but the voice of someone who simply wants to live more fully, more kindly, and more honestly, one morning at a time. There's a saying, when the mind is peaceful, the world becomes peaceful. And morning is the easiest time to find that peace, but only if you pause long enough to see it, that you are standing on sacred ground. No one else can step in for you. No one else can choose what you'll plant there. 5. Choose the words that lift you, not the ones that once broke you. There are some phrases that seem simple, but when spoken with honesty and presence, they carry the power to heal years of quiet pain. Not because they're magical, but because they arrive at the right moment from a heart that's finally ready to stop tying itself to old wounds. There's one short sentence, just a few words, that can lift someone off the floor after they've fallen over and over again. I made it through. Now, not everyone who says those words has solved everything, but the person who can say them is someone who's decided to stop repeating the thoughts that once crushed them. They no longer want to replay the voices that made them shrink, doubt, or feel unworthy. In Buddhist teachings, there's a familiar image, the raft crossing the river. The Dharma is the raft, suffering is the current, and right words, words of clarity, of awakening, are like the paddles that help carry us to the other shore. But the Buddha gave one clear reminder. Once you've crossed, don't carry the raft on your back. In the same way, some thoughts may have helped you survive at one point. They were your shield, your way to cope. But if life has changed, if time has passed, and your heart has started to heal, and you're still clinging to those same thoughts, they're no longer protection. They become weight. And strangely, those same phrases we used to repeat in our minds, I'm not good enough, I mess everything up, I deserve this pain, become mental habits, so familiar that on a quiet morning without them, you might actually feel empty, like you've grown used to living with the one who hurts you. That's why it takes a conscious choice. You can't wait for life to be perfect before speaking kindly to yourself. Healing never begins from the outside. It always starts within, with the words you choose to tell yourself. There's a story in the sutras about a man who had made many mistakes. After years of regret, he went to a monk and asked, "Is it too late to start over?" The monk didn't answer with teachings. He handed the man a clay bowl and said, "Throw it to the ground." The man did. The bowl shattered. Then the monk said, "Now pick up the pieces and make it whole again." The man looked up, confused. "I can't. It's broken beyond repair." The monk nodded. "Exactly. But you can use those same pieces to create something new. It won't be the same bowl, but it will still hold water, as long as you don't just sit there crying over the one that's gone." That story reminds us, you're not required to keep repeating the thoughts that broke you. If you notice yourself stuck in the same painful loops, you can choose different words. Gentler ones, truer ones. Not to fake happiness, but to offer your heart a way out. Someone who's been deeply hurt doesn't have to keep saying, "I'm fine." Maybe just whisper one morning, I'm learning to live with it without letting it run my life anymore. And that alone is already healing. Someone who's lost, failed, been abandoned, or disappointed doesn't have to pretend to be strong all the time. Maybe just say, I made it through that part. That's enough. Enough to spark a little flame in your heart. And maybe, if you keep tending that flame each morning with a warm word, a gentle breath, it'll grow, slowly, softly, until one day, it's bright enough to warm even your coldest days. 6. Your first words in the morning aren't just sounds. They're the architecture of your entire day. Some things are so small, so subtle, that we overlook them, but they shape the entire rhythm of our lives quietly, powerfully. And your first words each morning are one of those things. They're not just a whisper into the air, not just a sleepy sentence before your feet hit the floor. They're the first brick laid in the mental house you'll live in for the rest of the day. We often think our mood depends on what happens to us. A good meeting, a kind compliment, a warm cup of coffee, or on the flip side, a rude message, a traffic jam, a look that stings. But the truth is, your emotional foundation for the day is often laid before any of that happens. Right in that moment, you say the first thing to yourself. And this isn't just anecdotal, it's something the Buddha taught over 2,500 years ago. In the Dhammapada, he said, mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is chief. Mind makes them all. That one sentence, if you really understand it, can transform how you show up. Not just in your mornings, but in your work, relationships, and everyday choices. If the first thing you say is, another long, exhausting day, then your mind starts building your inner house on a shaky foundation of dread and fatigue. So when something doesn't go your way, you get irritated more quickly. When someone's rude, you snap back. When things go off track, you're more likely to just give up. Because your mental home for the day was built with bricks of negativity. But if the first thing you say is, today, I choose peace, then no matter what happens, you have a solid ground to stand on, a place to return to, a light to walk with. A wise old Zen teacher once told his students, your mind is a house. If you don't lay a solid stone each morning, by noon, the wind will shake it. By evening, the smallest push could knock it down. But if you place one firm, quiet stone at sunrise, the storms may come, but your house will still stand. Your first words of the day are that stone. They don't have to be poetic. You don't need mantras or fancy phrases. Just words that are real. And words you're present with as you say them. A woman once shared this with me. After losing her husband, every morning she whispered to herself, I will get through this. I will keep going. I don't have to be strong right now, but I won't give up. She said those same words day after day, until they became the foundation of her new life. There was no miracle, just the quiet work of rebuilding, one sentence at a time. And here's something powerful. The mind believes what you repeat. It doesn't ask, is this true? It only follows the direction you set. So if your morning starts with, I mess everything up, then that thought sets the GPS for your whole day. You'll notice more mistakes, doubt yourself more, and unknowingly confirm that belief. But if it starts with, I'm not perfect, but I'm growing, then every challenge becomes a part of your growth story, not proof of failure. Your first words are like the blueprint for your day. Are you building a space full of warmth and light? Or a room cluttered with judgment and self-doubt? It all begins with a few words. Just one sentence, if it's honest, kind, and steady can change how you get out of bed, how you eat breakfast, how you face frustration, and most of all, how you treat yourself. Because in the end, our inner world isn't shaped by big events. It's built through small details. And one of the most powerful ones is the very first thing you say when the day begins. 7. Don't let the world tell you who you are before you tell yourself. Because if you don't take charge of your inner life, the voices of comparison, judgment, and other people's expectations will pull you in every direction. There's something quiet, so quiet, it often goes unnoticed, but it happens every single day. And if you're not aware of it, it can quietly drag you far away from who you truly are. It's this: living without knowing who you really are and letting the outside world answer that question for you. It starts early. As children, we hear adults say, "You're a good kid," "You're being bad," "You made your parents proud," or "You made your parents ashamed." As we grow up, the words change, but their power doesn't. Now it becomes, "He's successful," "She's divorced," "That guy has no ambition," "She's a wonderful mom." Labels, definitions, titles, handed out by others, even when we haven't stopped to ask, "But who am I?" without all those voices. Here's where it gets dangerous. If you don't say something to yourself each morning, there will be hundreds of other voices ready to say it for you. From social media, from old wounds you haven't healed, from memories of being judged, from expectations, even well-meaning ones that pull you away from your truth. The Buddha once said, "Because of ignorance, beings do not see their true nature and mistake what is outside for what they are." And that's exactly what's happening to many people today. When we're not awake to ourselves, our minds cling to outside reflections, status, recognition, other people's opinions. If your day begins with comparison, it will likely unfold with a sense of lack. Just imagine this. Someone wakes up, doesn't pause, doesn't breathe, doesn't greet themselves. First thing they do is pick up their phone, scroll past others' highlight reels, their success, their joy, their perfect lives. And before a single word is spoken out loud, the mind has already started whispering, "Why can't I be like that? I'm not good enough. Maybe I'll never get there." Just a few minutes, and the world has already told them who they are. And sadly, much of what the mind hears in those moments isn't even true. In an old Zen temple, there was a young novice named Ananda. Each morning, he would quietly stand and gaze at the surface of a still pond. One day, someone asked, "Why are you looking at the water instead of chanting the sutras?" Ananda replied, "Because when the water is still, I can see my reflection clearly. And I don't want to begin my day without knowing what's happening in my own heart." That simple story holds a big truth. If we don't pause to check in with our inner state, we'll get pulled by everything outside. And if you don't say something to yourself each morning, something true, something grounded, that silence will be filled with labels you never chose, roles you no longer want to play, and expectations that were never really yours. And the more you live by what's outside, the emptier you feel inside. You might find success but not feel fulfilled. You might hear praise but feel disconnected. Because deep down, there's a part of you that knows you're not living in alignment with who you really are. An Eastern Zen master once said, "Before the world called you anything, you were already a miraculous life." That one sentence can remind someone of this: no one gets to define you if you haven't defined yourself. No one gets to speak the first word into your mind if you haven't spoken it yet. And that word, it doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be honest. Something simple, yet grounding. Something like, "I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be real." I don't need to be like anyone else. I just need to be kind. That kind of truth? That's where your real voice begins. 8. There's a common misunderstanding in modern life that meditation has to be something grand or complicated, that it has to look a certain way. Sitting perfectly still in full lotus in a quiet room with wind chimes, incense, and soft music playing in the background. But in the spirit of the Buddhist teachings, meditation has never been about appearances. Meditation simply means being fully present with your body, your breath, your thoughts, and whatever is happening in the moment. Sometimes, even a single sentence, if spoken with mindfulness, can be a powerful act of meditation. You don't need to sit for long. You don't need a special space. What you do need is one genuine moment of being with yourself. And the morning is a sacred time for that. Before the noise begins, before your mind is flooded with news, notifications, and responsibilities, that quiet space right at the start is where one simple, honest affirmation can become the foundation of your entire day. A woman once shared this with me. After a major life crisis, she lost all motivation to meditate. Even closing her eyes for 5 minutes made her feel restless and uneasy. But one morning, instead of forcing herself to sit, she simply stood in front of the mirror and softly whispered 3 sentences. I am enough. I am calm. I am grounded. She wasn't expecting anything to change. But strangely, something inside began to soften. Those words weren't just nice-sounding phrases. They became a gentle bridge from inner chaos to a place of quiet presence. Because when you say, I am enough, you're touching the energy of gratitude, not chasing the feeling of lack. When you say, I am calm, you're inviting the breath back to the here and now, not clinging to a future that hasn't arrived. And when you say, I am grounded, you're planting your feet firmly on the earth in a world that's always spinning. The Buddha once said in the Anguttara Nikaya, the mind is like a monkey. If not tied with the rope of mindfulness, it will leap from branch to branch endlessly. A well-chosen, mindful affirmation repeated with presence is that rope. Just one short phrase, spoken with attention, can quiet the restlessness in your heart, can warm a part of you that's gone cold. Many people think meditation needs to be separate from daily life. But in truth, meditation is life, when you are truly living it. And when a word is spoken with awareness, it is meditation. An old farmer from the countryside once told me, I don't know anything about meditation, but every morning when I step out into the yard, I put my hands together and say, thank you. Today, I will live kindly. He called it his promise to himself. But really, it was a living meditation. No frills, no fancy rituals, just full of life. So even if your morning is too busy to sit down, just say one mindful sentence while brewing your coffee, brushing your teeth, or tying your shoes. That alone can reset your entire inner world. The key isn't the words, it's your presence. Don't say them just to say them. Don't repeat them like a machine. Whisper them like a dear friend reminding you what truly matters. Whoever can repeat mindful words like that, day after day, will start to train the heart to move in a new direction. No longer reacting on autopilot. No longer swept away by comparison, anxiety, or harsh self-judgment, but living in a new way, softer, more aware, and deeply steady from the inside out. 9. The human mind is a lot like the body. If you don't train it, it becomes weak. If you don't use it regularly, it starts to break down. And without consistency, it will collapse at the very first impact life throws your way. But here's something most people don't realize. The mind can be trained, and it starts with the very first words you say in the morning. You don't need a fancy routine. You don't need any equipment. You just need a true sentence and your full awareness when you speak it. That's why your morning self-talk is never a small thing. Every time you repeat a sentence with mindfulness, compassion, and clarity, you're basically doing a mental push-up. It might seem simple, but if you do it every day, your mind becomes steadier, clearer, and less reactive to the chaos of the world. It's no different than building physical strength. You don't grow muscles after lifting weights once. And your inner life? It won't transform just from saying one nice sentence randomly. But if every morning you say, "Today I choose peace. I can stay grounded no matter what happens. I don't need to control everything. I just need to manage how I respond." Then you're building a kind of spiritual strength, more solid than any armor on the outside. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "The greatest victory is not defeating others, but mastering oneself." And when you look at that through the lens of a morning practice, it becomes incredibly practical. Because every morning, the moment you open your eyes, you have two choices. Give in to the same old mental patterns, or step into the day with a conscious reminder. And if you choose well, that's your first little victory of the day. Not a victory through suppressing your feelings, but through nurturing something good from within. An older layperson once came to the monastery and told me, "I'm no longer young enough to do yoga or meditate for 2 hours like I used to. But I discovered something. If I stand in front of the mirror each morning and say just one sentence with my whole heart, it feels like my mind gets new energy." The sentence he chose? "I am not who I was yesterday. I'm learning to live more kindly today." It sounds simple, but that very simplicity, practiced with devotion, helped him get through quiet waves of depression. After retiring, after losing his wife, after his children moved away. And the amazing thing is this: when you speak a mindful sentence, your mind doesn't just hear it, it shifts in response. The mind doesn't need long explanations. It just needs a direction to turn toward. And that first sentence of the day, that's how you show your mind the way. Now think about this. If every day you let your mind run wild with self-criticism, blame, or complaint, it's like pouring a glass of dirty water into your heart day after day. But if instead you offer one clear drop of wisdom, just one calm, conscious sentence, eventually the entire lake will begin to clear. The mind is like water. It gets easily colored, but it can also be purified with patience. And every kind word, every mindful sentence you repeat, is one small act of detox, cleaning out old emotional toxins stuck inside for years. People go to the gym to strengthen their bodies. You can train your mind too right at the start of your day with the words you speak. You don't have to say them out loud. You don't need to write them on a whiteboard. Just say them in your heart with your full presence. Your sentence might be, "I'm healing. I have the strength to meet today. I create how I live, not my circumstances." If you do that every morning, even just once, you're quietly training your mind to become stronger, deeper, and more grounded in a world that never stops changing. 10. The inner world of a human being is never still. Whether we notice it or not, whether we're paying attention or not, every single day, every passing minute, something is being formed inside of us. Something is being built. Either it's built by the light of awareness or by the quiet fog of unawareness. And here's the interesting thing. This process doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't pause until you're peaceful, successful, or finally have time. It happens right in the middle of life, while you're busy, distracted, stressed, or even hurting. And one of the most powerful moments that shapes our inner world is the morning. It's no coincidence that many spiritual traditions around the world consider early morning to be sacred. In Buddhism, it's the time when the mind is still soft, not yet molded by the pressures of the day. And it's within that quiet space that the first brick of your inner life is laid. So the real question is, what kind of brick are you laying? If you begin your morning in a rush, reacting, complaining, comparing, then, without realizing it, you're building your inner world from pieces of confusion. Not because you're bad, but simply because you weren't intentional. On the other hand, if you start your morning with even a minute of stillness, if you say one kind thing to yourself, one mindful reminder, then you're setting a whole new foundation for your spirit. Just like building a house. If the foundation is off, the higher you build, the more crooked it becomes. The same goes for the mind. If fear is your starting point in the morning, you'll likely spend the whole day feeling anxious. If comparison is what leads the way, you'll spend the day feeling not enough. And if you let unawareness guide you living without reflection, without observation, without clarity, then it won't be a day truly lived. It'll just be another day passed. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha once said, "The ordinary person lives without knowing they are alive. They are swept away by life like a rotten log floating in a raging river." And to not be swept away like that, the awakened ones begin their day with a choice. Not a big, dramatic life choice. Not a vow to change everything overnight. Just one small decision, but one that can shift how you walk through the day. Something like, "Today, I will not rush to react. I will listen before I argue. I will move slowly, but be fully present in each step." These kinds of choices, made again and again each morning, become the materials that shape your inner world. They're not flashy, not loud, but they're strong. There's a little story from an old monastery. A man once came to the Zen master, complaining that he often felt sad, easily angry, and too sensitive to what others said or did. The master pointed to a wall under construction nearby and asked, "If every morning you lay one brick in the right place, what will you have in 100 days?" The man replied, "A wall." The master smiled. "Correct. Now, what if each morning you just throw a stone there without care?" The man thought and said, "Just a pile of rubble." "Exactly." The master nodded. "Each morning, you get to choose. Will you place a brick of awareness or toss in a chunk of confusion? You can choose to speak one nurturing sentence to yourself, or let your mind repeat the old words that shrink your spirit. You can light a gentle lamp inside, or let yesterday's shadows creep back in and silently shape how you'll live today. And here's the heart of it. Your inner life isn't built by circumstances. It's built by habits. Maybe your outer world hasn't changed yet. Work is still stressful. Your family still has struggles. Your body still feels tired. But if every morning you offer one true thing, one true sentence, one conscious breath, one gentle intention, then little by little, you're building a new home inside yourself. A place to rest, a place to return to, no matter how chaotic the world outside becomes. 11. Don't wait for perfection to begin. Begin. And that's how you create perfection from within. Even just a few mindful minutes each morning, if done with presence and consistency, you're already reshaping yourself from the inside out. But you know, a lot of people live their whole lives never daring to begin simply because they think they're not enough. Not good enough. Not strong enough. Not ready enough. So they wait. They wait for a day when their mind is clearer, their emotions more stable, when life is less chaotic. Then, maybe, they'll finally live with kindness, mindfulness, and intention. But here's the strange part: that day almost never comes. Because if you're waiting for life to be perfect, you'll be waiting forever. The truth is, if you start right in the middle of your imperfections, that's when the miracle begins. You begin creating perfection from within. None of us were born with an unshakable spirit. No one just wakes up one sunny morning, suddenly wise, peaceful, calm, and full of compassion. All of those qualities are the result of starting, even if awkwardly, even if uncertainly, even if far from perfect. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, "No one matures by waiting. Only through steady practice in mindfulness does the mind become trained and clear." It's a reminder that even one small right action done every day with full presence can reshape the whole inner landscape of who you are. Imagine your morning like a doorway. How you step through that door will influence how you walk through the rest of the day. But here's the thing: you don't need to walk through it perfectly. You just need to not turn your back on yourself. There's a story of someone who once asked a monk, "I try to meditate in the morning, but I can't keep it up. Some days my mind is chaotic. Other days I don't feel like I have time. Sometimes I don't even know what to say to myself." The monk just smiled and said, "Then begin with the chaos. Begin with the not enough. Begin with the silence." Then he added, "If every day you can place just one small brick, by the end of a year you'll have a home. But if you wait until you have all the bricks, you might never build anything at all." That's how we rebuild the inner self, little by little, with steady presence. Not with dramatic inspiration that flares and fades, but through small, honest moments actually lived. An ordinary person doesn't need to do anything extraordinary. They just need to touch themselves each morning before they touch the world. It could be a quiet whisper like, "I'm still learning. However yesterday was, today I begin again. I choose to live kindly first with myself." Just a few minutes. But if done consistently, the mind starts to notice. It begins to understand. Every morning, you come back to yourself. And when the mind understands that, it softens. It listens. It begins to change. The Buddha didn't teach us to chase perfection. He taught us to live in truthfulness. Because in truthfulness, we see clearly where we are. And when we see clearly, we can begin to walk. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need to say profound things. You just need to be there, really be there for a few minutes each morning. If you repeat that every day, with one mindful sentence, one deep breath, one gentle reminder, you are quietly reshaping the architecture of your inner world. No one may see that. No one may praise you for it. But your mind knows. And one day, when the waves rise, you'll notice you don't collapse as easily. When someone says something hurtful, you don't react the way you used to. When failure, loss, or rejection arrives, you still keep your dignity. You still remember gratitude. You still stay awake, because now you have a place to return to. And that place is you, built quietly, lovingly, through the honest and consistent mornings you gave to yourself. 12. Morning is when the mind absorbs most deeply, like soft earth after rain. Whatever you plant then will grow and follow you throughout the day. There are moments in the day that carry a special kind of power, but they're often rushed past and overlooked. Morning is one of those moments. Not because of the sunrise or the birds singing, but because your mind at that time is like freshly watered soil, soft, open, and ready to receive. Modern neuroscience even supports this. In the first 20-30 minutes after waking up, Your brain is still in slow wave mode, the same kind of brainwave state you enter during deep meditation. This means the mind hasn't yet been filled with noise or distractions. It's still quiet, undisturbed, and anything you place into it in that window sinks in deeper, lasts longer, and shapes you more profoundly. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful metaphor called the field of the mind. The Buddha compared our mind to a field and our thoughts, words, and actions to seeds. If the soil is dry and hardened, even good seeds struggle to grow. But if the soil is moist, soft, and cool, even a tiny seed can sprout and thrive. Morning is when that inner soil is most fertile. So whatever you plant in that moment will grow and walk with you through your day. A gentle, wise affirmation like, "I am enough. I'm on the right path. I choose peace." When spoken while your mind is still soft, becomes more than just a passing phrase. It becomes a ripple, deep inside your subconscious, quietly guiding your emotions, decisions, and even how you see yourself in the world for the rest of the day. On the flip side, if the first thoughts you plant are, "Ugh, another exhausting day. Why haven't I changed yet? I'm still not good enough." It's like scattering weed seeds on rich, wet soil. They grow wild and fast, and before you know it, your whole inner space is overrun. There's an old Zen story about a young student who often came to his teacher in the late afternoon, frustrated. He would say things like, "I lost my temper today," or "I got thrown off by someone's words," or "I couldn't stay mindful." One day, the teacher asked, "What seed did you plant in your mind this morning?" The student went quiet. The teacher continued, "When the ground is wet and you throw in hot coals, it smolders all day. But if you pour in cool water, you walk in peace." Simple story, but such a powerful reminder. The mind doesn't wait until you're ready. It starts working the moment you open your eyes. And if you don't choose what to plant, the old seeds will take over. The seeds of fear, worry, resentment like weeds grow by default. That's why before you grab your phone, before the world comes rushing in, pause, breathe, and plant something kind. One gentle sentence, spoken with full presence, can shift the whole tone of your day. Maybe it's, "Today I choose not to judge. I am already enough. I don't need to prove anything. I walk today with gratitude." These aren't delusions. They're seeds. And morning is the strongest planting time. The Buddha once said, "The wise choose the right time to speak words of goodness." And in daily life, the morning is the right time. You don't have to say a lot. You don't have to meditate for an hour. Just a few minutes spoken at the right time, and you'll feel the ripple effect of a well-planted seed. Just like a farmer knows to plant right after rain, a mindful person begins to recognize that their early morning mind is like rain-softened earth, perfect for growth. And once you truly see that, you won't want to waste it. You won't want to plant worry or frustration or self-judgment anymore. Instead, you'll begin your day with reverence, with a little light, with a quiet faith in the path you're walking. 13. Your mind is the first teacher you meet each day. Greet your morning the way a student greets a beloved teacher, with respect, with openness, and a willingness to learn. Because whatever you say to yourself in the morning becomes the lesson you'll live with all day. Have you ever noticed the first person you meet each day isn't your spouse, your kids, your coworkers? It's your own mind. Even before your eyes are fully open, even before your feet touch the floor or your hand reaches for your phone, there's already a silent encounter taking place. It's you meeting your mind, And that meeting quietly sets the tone for your entire day. Your mind isn't just a companion. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is also your teacher. The Buddha once said, "The mind precedes all things. It leads, it creates." That means before anything happens on the outside, your mind has already begun the process. It teaches you how to see people, how to react to a comment, how to handle sorrow, and even how you treat yourself when no one is watching. So each morning, in that very first moment when you open your eyes, you're already sitting in the first classroom of your new day. And guess who's teaching? You are. The only question is, what lesson are you giving yourself? Some people wake up and immediately whisper to themselves, "Today's gonna be a mess. Ugh, another day I have to push through." No one forced them to think that. They simply let old, unconscious habits take over. And sure enough, the rest of the day plays out like a self-fulfilling prophecy, rushed, heavy, disconnected. But there are others, even with challenges ahead, who begin the day with a very different attitude. Not blind optimism, but mindful presence. They greet their own mind the way you'd greet a wise teacher. They whisper, "Good morning. Today, I'll try to live a little more kindly. Today, I'll pause before reacting. I choose to listen." These words may seem small, but they're actually the first lesson the mind is absorbing. In traditional Buddhist monasteries, students bow to the teacher each morning not as formality, but as a practice of reverence and humility. But I remember a wise old monk once said, "There will be days when your teacher isn't around. No one to guide you. And in those moments, your own mind becomes the one who shows the way." What matters isn't who's teaching. What matters is whether you're still learning. That's real. Because no matter how many years you've studied Buddhism, how many books you've read, if the first thing your mind does in the morning is spiral into anger, anxiety, or rush, then really, you're letting your own self teach your own self things that are not wise. Imagine this. If a student walked into class every day and was greeted by a teacher who scolded them, shamed them, discouraged them, eventually, that student would lose confidence and stop trying. Now think about this. If you start every morning by judging yourself, criticizing yourself, replaying mistakes or worries, your mind becomes just like that student, tired, shut down, numb. But if you meet yourself with compassion, if you see your imperfections without punishing them, then you're not a harsh critic anymore. You're a kind teacher. Greeting the day doesn't need to be some complex ritual. Sometimes it's as simple as one deep breath and one gentle reminder from a mindful heart. Today, I will observe myself like a student learning to live more honestly. Or even just, "I'm here. I get to learn something new today." That one sentence whispered from presence can quietly open a new doorway inside. Because what you tell yourself in the morning, even in a whisper, stays with you like background music. And if that music is kind, compassionate, and spacious, then even if your day gets hard, you won't lose yourself. Some people have never studied meditation, but they have a beautiful habit. In the morning, they don't rush. They don't dive into social media. They don't turn on the noisy news. They just sit quietly. They look out the window, watch sunlight land on the tree in their yard, and they smile. What are they saying to their mind? They're saying, "This life still has so much beauty left to learn from." And once you realize your mind is the first teacher you meet, morning stops being just another part of your routine. It becomes the opening of a new chapter, where every breath, every self-affirmation is a lesson in self-nourishment. You don't need a big life change. You don't need perfect circumstances. All you need is this morning and you. Because every morning is a seed planting moment. And the seed you drop into your mind, even the tiniest one, will quietly grow and walk beside you all day. So tomorrow, try this. Before you do anything else, take just a few seconds and look at yourself with compassionate eyes, like a humble student greeting the inner teacher. There is no greater lesson than learning from yourself. Learning to understand, to forgive, to begin again, to live more beautifully starting today. And if this reflection touched something in you, a quiet awakening, a small shift in how you want to live, then I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. You never know what you write might be the light someone else needs. And if you find value in this kind of message, please like the video, subscribe to the Buddhism Seeds channel, and share this with someone who might also need a gentle reminder from the heart. Thank you for being here fully present in this moment.